Hey everybody, good evening. Welcome to another Digital Dungeon Master show. Holy cow. Start back up of for week number 2. Man, it was really nice to get back into the swing of things last week. And it was really nice to, be able to stream on time and do all of the shows that I mentioned I was going to do on my new calendar that you can see on my digitaldungeonmaster.com website, or you can see the schedule here on Twitch as well. So yeah, it was really nice to get back into the swing of things. It's all about being consistent now, and that's that's the whole key, because 2019 was just so bad for me and doing the Digital Dungeon Master stuff. So I haven't this is a new series, you guys can see in the stream title and everything, but this is called Let's Talk RPGs. And tonight we're going to talk about the Dragon Age RPG. And yes, to those of you out there that play the video game religiously, yes, there is a pen and paper, let's roll some dice, Dragon Age RPG. And we're going to talk all about it. So if you guys have any questions here in the live Twitch chat, or if you're going to be watching this on YouTube, feel free to ask a comment in the comment section, and I will answer that question to the best of my ability. So but yeah, I'm looking forward to doing this this new video series, and we're going to talk about all kinds of RPG games, all kinds of pen and paper games that I have been reading over the years. So tonight's the first one, and we're going to dive right in to Dragon Age. So I'm looking forward to doing this. So Mike, what's going on? Drake Takes, hey, what's going on? Jeff Toot, hey, thanks for the you've been binge watching, huh? Well, that's cool, man. There's thousands of videos, so I appreciate the nice words, man. Boffrin, what's going on, buddy? Deviator, what's going on? Good to see everybody. So if you guys have any questions or anything like that, feel free to ask them, and I will answer them to the best of my ability, like I said. And like I said, even though this isn't going to be live for you on YouTube, there's still a comment section, so feel free to chime in down there as well in the comment section. So I got a question off the bat from Boffrin. Have I tried Fantasy Age? Absolutely. Fantasy Age derives from Dragon Age. Dragon Age was the first to have this 3d6 mechanic by Green Row 9, Chris Pramas and his brainchild and his company's brainchild. So yeah, I've tried Fantasy Age. I really like Fantasy Age, and the 3d6 system is what I'm going to be using for my world, and that's kind of why I'm going to be talking over the next couple of weeks about Dragon Age, also Fantasy Age, Modern Age, etc. So they'll be pretty early in the video series. So a little history of myself and Dragon Age. I never played the Dragon Age video games, even though I had heard of them. I know my son, he liked playing the Dragon Age video games, but myself, I wasn't really into them. It's not that I didn't want to be into them. I was just too busy into playing other games like World of Warcraft, Lord of the Rings Online, pretty much your MMOs, And so when I started Dungeon Mastering back in, even though I've been playing D&D and other RPGs since 1984, when I started Dungeon Mastering here on Twitch was back at the end of 2013 going into 14. And my first game, we pretty much played nothing but basic Dungeons and Dragons. And then we basically stepped into D&D Next, which was the D&D 5th edition before it was called 5th edition. So as as the beta testing was going on for D&D Next, a couple of people had in my chat. I actually, there was a very large following back in the day because of D&D Next and D&D 5e, and quite a few of my viewers were mentioning this game called Dragon Age. And I had heard of Dragon Age, like I said, because I bought my son the games and stuff. So I'm like, okay, let's check out this Dragon Age RPG and let's see what all the hype is about, because a lot of people said that it played really super quick, it played fast, and the dice mechanics were cool, and they had mentioned that it was a 3d6. And like I said, I didn't know anything about Dragon Age. All I knew is it was fantasy. And so I started looking into it and found the Green Ronin website. And I noticed that, yeah, there was a Dragon Age game out. And I guess it had been out since 2010, 2009-ish. And it came out in a box set. And it was called the Dragon Age RPG box set. And the first box set was for levels 1 through 5. And I was like, all right, this looks pretty cool. So I bought the box set. And I started looking through it and everything, and I'm thinking, okay, this looks this looks pretty good. So I started reading the book, and the great thing about Green Ronin is not only if you buy a book, upon checkout, they give you the choice of adding on a PDF for like $5. I wish all companies did this. This would solve a lot of problems online. But I noticed that smaller companies like Green Ronin, Kobold Press, and stuff like that, they will offer you discounts on PDFs if you buy their physical books. So the larger companies need to take note on that and start doing it, because that's a great thing to do. And so I went ahead and I bought this. Box set. And in fact, I think I got one of the last ones, because I went back to the Green Ronin website a couple of days later, and I was going to do a couple of box sets as giveaways, but the box set had sold out. So I guess I got one of the last box sets. So I ordered it. I waited about a week. I got this box set, and it was awesome. I mean, it had a couple of books in it. There's a player's guide, and then there was a game master's book. And these were pretty hefty books, And then there was other, the other cool stuff that you get in, dice and all that. No, actually, I don't think dice came in the box. But I think there were some other reference pages and stuff like that. And so I started reading about it. And I couldn't put, honestly, from what I remember, because this has been a while ago, I couldn't put the book down, actually. And at this time, I used another virtual tabletop. And so I started plugging in all of this data for Dragon Age, and I was infatuated with this game. And I was like, wow, this game really reminds me a lot of the Star Wars 3D6 game back from the 80s from West End Games. And I was like, wow, 3D6 plus your ability score, any other bonuses, super easy, and you roll. And then as I'm reading, I started reading about stunts. And I'm like, what are stunts? So I started reading about stunts, and whenever you roll 3d6, there's 2 different color dice. So if you have 3 dice, 2 of them are one color, and the last die is a different color. So if you roll doubles on any of the 3 dice, you accrue stunt points with the off-color die. And I'm like, all right, so I started reading about it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you can actually push a target back, you can do extra damage, you can do spell stunts and stuff. And mind you, this is just the first box set. When there were just, combat stunts and spell stunts. But later on in box sets 2 and 3, which I'll get into later, they started adding more types of stunts for like role playing, for exploration and stuff like that. So I was like, holy cow, man, you can hit a target and then you get 6 stunt points, up to 6 stunt points because you're rolling a d6, and you can move the target. You can just push the target back. You can do like a mighty blow strike, do an extra 2d6. You can do all kinds of extra cool stuff with your spells. And I was like, this is really awesome. This is so much different than what I'm used to playing with a d20. Oh, you just double the damage. So the stunts were, I think the stunts, now that I look back, I think that gimmick with the stunts is what really sold me on the game. And I was like, this is awesome. And I was like, man, I think the players will like this too. So after reading it, I didn't know anything about Dragon Age lore. I didn't know anything about, the Chantry. I didn't know anything about the Grey Wardens. I didn't know anything about Ferelden. I didn't know anything about anything. And I just started reading and reading and reading. And the more that I started reading, I was like, wow, this world is actually pretty cool. With the Blight, you got all the Darkspawn, you got all the demons and devils running around. I'm like, hey, this is my type of game. So it was awesome. And this was actually, Dragon Age was the first game that I ever ran for players that wasn't Dungeons and Dragons. Because by this point, I had been running basic Dungeons and Dragons, the Dungeons and Dragons 5 playtest, and then I was also running a Dungeons and Dragons 4th edition campaign as well. So my players absolutely loved it. I mean, we did some stuff with it. From what I remember, and you can actually see these videos from years ago. I mean, I'm not a very, I've evolved as a DM a lot since then. But it's one of my first games, and I've actually went back and watched some of it, and I kind of cringe at some of the things that I would do and stuff, but that I don't do anymore. But yeah, it was awesome. It was the first time I ever ran a game that just simply wasn't Dungeons and Dragons. And but for what I remember, we had a great time, and my players, they actually did an adventure, and they helped this family basically clear the blight from their farm. But they had been infected by some type of curse or disease, and they all died. So my players kept the farm that they had. So, with this other tabletop, I was letting my players use the map, and they were decorating the map with thousands of assets that I had, bushes, trees, and they decorated it up all by themselves. So they could have, it was like their central hub for, getting together and adventuring. And, a couple times the Darkspawn and the Blight and, the other creatures attacked the farm. And it was really fun. But I know they had fun. I had fun. But my players, man, I had 4 random players. And 2 of my players were absolutely creepy. And I'm sorry if you're watching this, and I'm not going to mention any names or anything like that. But 2 of my players were absolutely creepy. And they were creepy in the fact that one of them played a male character and the other played a female character. And these are both guys, right? So they're always RPing each other, and it's starting to go into like ERP hour and stuff. And it just got a little weird sometimes. And then I would try to usher it on to another scene of the adventure. But I don't know if any of you guys had ever watched that and noticed that about that game. But yeah, to me, it just made me a little weird and feel a little, uncomfortable. And so the game actually, ran its entire course, and we had fun, and it was great. But this is the whole creep factor of my players. And after that game, I had come up with a house rule saying that, I don't want any guys playing female characters, and I don't want any females playing guy characters. So if you're a male, you're playing a male character. Because and if you're a female, you're playing a female character. Because when I grew up, that's what happened. You know, that's how I was raised playing D&D, or that's how everybody played. So whenever this happened, this is the first time this had ever happened at, you know, especially at my table, and it just made me feel uncomfortable. But every time I started making adjustment, well, not adjustments, but I started making exceptions to the rule. You know, because I had a couple of players that were going through like transgender and stuff. So I was like, now in that case, I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem, because that's what you're doing with, you know, that's what you're doing in your real life. So I can see that. But just dudes just flat out playing chick characters with, like, you know, double D breasts and running around in chainmail bikinis and just flirting with every NPC, which I'm acting out. I didn't feel comfortable doing that. So yeah, I definitely that was like the first thing I house ruled. And I actually had people not play in my games because they wanted to play female characters, and I'm like, look, dude, if you got balls, you're playing a male character, and that's just the way it is in my game. And if you don't want to play that way, you gotta go. So any of you old school viewers of the channel, you guys may remember that, because I had a couple debates years and years ago about that. But but the game was fun, and yeah, the players loved the stunts. The stunts was new to everybody. The stunts weren't new just to me. You know, the stunts were new to the players too, because they were Pathfinder players and, you know, D&D 4E players, basically. You know, and to kind of move on from the history, myself and the history of Dragon Age, you know, there are a lot of things that, as I started playing the game, I really enjoyed it, and I really liked it, and so did my players. And one of the things, besides, you know, 3d6 plus a focus, another thing that, and the stunts, what I really loved was character customization. Because I'm a huge D&D 4th edition fan. And I know I'm in the minority when I say that, but I love the character customization aspect of D&D 4th edition. I think that's one of the major draws that I have for D&D 4th edition. And plus also, it's just set up as a dungeon master's dream as well. I mean, it's just set up magnificently for dungeon masters. And the character customization part of Dragon Age was really nice. You know, the game is actually 1 to 20. Every level you get either it be primary ability score increases or secondary ability score increases. You know, you can get you can take talents which are sort of like multi-leveled feats. So there's like a novice, a journeyman, and a master. I think it's novice, journeyman, and master. Levels of, say, if you want to take two-handed fighting, or you could take armor training. So you could take armor training, and at novice you would get, you know, be able to use leather. And then you'd take another increased rank of it. You could use the medium armors like chainmail and stuff. And then if you could become a master in armor mastery, then you could wear the heavy plates. And, you know, on a side note, which was also cool, you could also, as a magic user, you could also wear heavy armor and still cast spells. But there was a penalty for that. And this is another thing that I liked. And I'm going into all the things that I like now. So I may kind of go all over the place with this as I remember stuff, because I'm doing everything off my head. I don't have a script written down or anything like that. There's probably going to be some things that I missed too, but I'm hoping that I don't have anything missed. But it was called Strain. And I loved that about Dragon Age. So you could be a mage running around in full heavy armor. But like I said, there was a penalty, and it was called strain. And strain just added on that many more MP, which were mana points or spell points. And that was another thing that I loved about Dragon Age, was there were no spell slots. So you didn't have, unlimited cantrips, and it was different. It was different than D20 than what I'm used to, and I like that. I loved everything about Dragon Age because it was totally different than D20. So you had a mana pool, basically, or a spell point pool, whatever you want to call it, and you'd have 40 spell points or something. You could regain 1d6 plus your magic score per hour, or after 8 hours, you'd get all of your spell points back. But so if you had a spell that cost 5 mana points, if you had on heavy armor, you would have to spend 5 or 6 more points because of the strain. So that spell would go up to like 10 or 11 or 12. And some spells, the more badass a spell was, the more MP that it cost to cast. And then I also liked about, and since we're on talking about magic, there were the magic stunts. And then after more box sets came out, like I said, the first box set were for levels 1 to 5, and level 6 to 10 was box set 2, and then there was a huge delay. I don't know if it was, I think it was because of BioWare, and I think that's another reason why Green Row 9 really doesn't publish anything anymore for the Dragon Age RPG, is I think it's just because it's such a hassle to get BioWare to approve things. Because I know box set 3, I waited for, and not only me, but every fan of the Dragon Age RPG for levels 11 to 20, we waited for years for box set 3. And it had been done, but they couldn't release it. And I think it all had to go down to BioWare and approval and licensing. So I think that's why the game took so long to come out. So, but with box set 2 and 3, they started adding in more stunt tables for magic. So if you were using primal magic, here's a primal magic stunt table. If you were using, fire magic or earth magic, here's different tables for them. So it was awesome. And then there was magical mishaps. So you had to do a successful roll for your spell to go off in the first place. And if you rolled, a 1 on the stunt die, then something bad was going to happen, and then you had to go to the magical mishaps table. And it was awesome. It was just put together so perfectly. And even back then when I was playing, to go off of what I was talking about, the favorite parts of the game that I liked, I was in the process of considering converting all this D&D 5e stuff to the 3d6 system, just because I was in love with it. But as I started doing more and more with the channel, full-time YouTube channel, that just kind of faded off into the distance, and I never got to do that. And that's what I'm doing now, is with my World of Warcraft Con, we're using the 3d6 system. Just because I love that system so much, and there's so much potential to do things there with 3d6. So yeah, that's going to be amazing. But another thing that, like I said, I mentioned the character customization. That was amazing. You'd get things every level. Then you'd get to choose more talents, which I said were like feats. Then there were specializations, which specializations were kind of like archetypes in D&D 5th edition, or Paragon paths in D&D 4th edition, or in Pathfinder 3.5. Once you met the requirements, you could take another type of class, like a Pathfinder or something like that. So these specializations were great too, because you could, if you were say you were a rogue type of base character, you could take assassin as a specialization. So as you went from novice to journeyman to master, you could pick up other things for, you know, for being an assassin or a hunter, or you could be a bard, or if you were a mage, you could become a spell mage. You know, you could take all the different types of specializations for different types of magic in Dragon Age. You could become a blood mage. I mean, there was just so much customization between your talents and your specializations that it was awesome, and it was really fun. And plus, being able to upgrade your ability score focuses, which were basically the equivalent to skills, it was great. And then I also another base mechanic thing that I liked about Dragon Age was, I believe that there were 7 core abilities, everything from like might to magic, to willpower to cunning to perception, and every single ability score was useful. You had your primaries and your secondaries. You had 3 primaries, and then you had 4 secondaries. And as you leveled up, you got to put a couple points into your primaries, a couple points into your secondaries when you hit this other level. And that was nice because every single ability score was useful. It's not like, you know, D20 systems where Dex is the end-all be-all and everybody just puts everything in the Dex because it affects your armor class, it affects your ranged attacks, your range damage, your, you know, if you're using a finesse weapon for melee, it'll affect your to hit, your damage, it'll affect everything on your character if you just dump everything into one thing. Dragon Age isn't like that because it affects different things. So, you know, if you have, I think the only stat that affects multiple things was might, would affect your to hit and your damage. But your accuracy was your to hit for ranged weapons. And then your cunning was to do with like a saving throw equivalent for this type of magic. And in your dexterity, it affected your speed. So every single one of these 7 ability scores affected something. And I liked that. That was something that you don't see very often either. So great things about Dragon Age. I'm going to go to the chat really quick now, and we'll get back into Magic, because I think I got off of Magic talking about something else, but we'll go back to Magic. So if you guys have any questions or anything like that in the chat now, feel free to ask them, and I'll answer them as fast as I can and as accurate as I can. So, oh, Banaki, you remember the game? Yeah, the player, he was actually from England, and yeah, he would change his voice to like to a female voice, and then he's like flirting with my NPCs and stuff, and it just kind of made me a little uncomfortable because I just wasn't used to that. So welcome Gwydion, welcome Tier, what's going on? What's up RPG Clyde? Juice Overdrive, what's going on? Nice name, Juice. So it looks like Juice Overdrive has a question. Was Dragon Age a point-buy system for character generation? No, it wasn't a point-buy system. But now for ability scores, there were a couple of ways to generate your ability scores. Now, obviously, you could roll, 3d6 all the way down from, top to bottom. But I believe there was also a point-buy system for the ability scores, if I remember correctly. I think there was something optional for that. But I believe in the rules they wanted you to roll 3d6 all the way down. And it wasn't like if you rolled 3d6 and you got an 18, you didn't have an 18. This is another thing that was different from D20 was you just had an ability score modifier. So, if you have an 18, I think it gave you like a +3 or 4 bonus. So your might would be a 3 or 4, whatever that 18 was, meant to be as an 18. So yeah, that's what I liked. And in any kind of ability focus, which was a skill check for that particular, for might, there would be like, lifting or athletics, or for dexterity, there would be like jumping, acrobatics. You would add a +2 onto that. So you do 3d6 plus your might. So if you had a 4, you get 3d6 plus 4. And then if you had a focus in athletics, you'd add another +2. So that'd be like 3d6 plus 6. And then, all the target numbers were very manageable. It was good. So yeah, there was a sort of like a point buy for ability scores, Juice Overdrive, but as for character creation in general, like maybe GURPS or something. I don't know if you're referring to GURPS. I think GURPS had a point buy system for everything on your character. No, it's not like that. Just for ability scores, I think. Gwydion, hey, what's going on? You got a question? You asked about advantage, and you say you agree with me 100%. You love the Boonbane concept with Shadow of the Demon Lord. Yeah. Even though we're not talking about Shadow of the Demon Lords, yeah, I love that. And that's something that I'm looking into doing with my game as well. So how disadvantage, and I'll just kind of, Shadow of the Demon Lord, which is another game that we're going to be discussing probably in the next month or so here on the channel. Yeah, boons and banes work like this. So if you have 3 banes and 1 boon, which a bane is a disadvantage and a boon is an advantage. So you roll an extra d6. So you roll your boons and banes first. So like I said, you have 3 banes, 1 boon. You have 2 negative. They cancel each other out. So you roll the 2 extra bane die that you have, and then you take the highest number from them. You don't add them together. You take the highest number, and then you deduct that from your regular 3d6 plus bonuses roll. So that's a pretty cool boon and bane system. I actually like that more than Dungeons and Dragons advantage and disadvantage, because it's a bonus. It's not so advantageous to where you're running 2d20s for a success, or for a disadvantage, you could roll 2 1s. I mean, granted, yeah, I mean that's part of rolling the die, but yeah, I like the boons and banes, which is basically equivalent to advantage and disadvantage. It just works differently. So there's nothing like that in Dragon Age. There's 3 die, but there's the stunt system, which I've already talked about, and I love the stunt system as well. That was, I've never seen that before in an RPG, and it was like, this is actually really fun. So yeah, so a couple people have asked also. There is no, I don't think there's ever going to be a official Dragon Age rule set for Fantasy Grounds, simply because of the licensing with BioWare through licensing with Green Row 9. So I don't think a Dragon Age rule set will happen. But for Fantasy Age, I think that can definitely happen. Because there's no Fantasy Age's Green Row 9's IP, so that would be a much easier thing to do. Which I actually have a working and functional full-blown Fantasy Age rule set that I'll be using in my games. So I just got my hands on it yesterday, and it's amazing. Holy cow, it's amazing. And it's just to let everybody know, it's not for public consumption or anything like that. Yeah. So I'm going to be using it for Dragon Age, Fantasy Age, and Modern Age. Just to, let you know on that. So, all right, let's get back on to Dragon Age. So, sorry I get distracted with other things and questions coming in with the chat and stuff. So, and you guys can read the chat as well. On the YouTube video. Jeff, how do you become a player in my game? I actually have a a pretty long list of players right now, and I'll be rotating players in and out. But in another month or so, I'm going to be setting up my Patreon page again, or Patreon page. And I usually, if I ever need anything player wise, I always announce that first with my Patreons. So, but right now I'm set for players, to be honest. So. So Banaka has a question. Gwydion says you need to look up Dragon Age now. Yeah, it's a great game, man. They did a Fantasy Age book separate from there's a so this is the all-in-one Dragon Age book right here. This is box set 1, 2, and 3. It's 460 some pages, I think. 440 pages. It comes on the map of a Dragon Age map. Wow, look at that. Companies actually still put maps in books. Some other companies need to make note of that and start putting maps back into your books. But yeah, this is Dragon Age. It's 466 pages, and it has levels 1 through 20. It has all of the lore for Ferelden. It has a bunch of adventures, and it has everything that's in all 3 box sets. And this came out after box set 3. And you can pick this up, actually you can pick this up on Amazon. You can pick it up on, I haven't seen it in any game stores or anything like that. So I would say Amazon or on the Green Row 9 website. But the Green Row 9 website may be out. So yeah, this has everything you need to play, all the monsters, everything. I mean, it's a beautiful book. I mean, it's got tons of beautiful art. I mean, it just has everything that, a D20 D&D book would have, and a whatever Pathfinder would have. So, but yeah, there is a Fantasy Age did derive from that. And here's the Fantasy Age book. And it's the same rules as Dragon Age, but it's just that it's a lot smaller book. But they've been putting out other books as well, like a Fantasy Age Bestiary, campaign companions guide, and a player's companion with more options and stuff. So yeah, Fantasy Age is Dragon Age minus a Dragon Age, and it's just a core generic game like Savage Worlds, like GURPS, where you can play any setting in Fantasy Age. And that's what I'm doing with my world. I'm using 3D6. And then they've also came out with some other books for modern age stuff, which we will be using for my zombie apocalypse. When we start back playing the zombie apocalypse, we'll be using the Dragon Age / Fantasy Age / modern age rule set to play my modern day zombie apocalypse. And then there's some other stuff too. I think there's a sci-fi world out there called The Expanse that has content coming out for the 3D6 as well. So yeah, there's plenty of stuff going on with Fantasy Age and the different genres, which is awesome. So to get back yet again on, even though I'm going off on different tangents talking about the games and stuff, you can go ahead and check it. If you're playing a mage, you'll like the mage. And, there's, like I said, there's spell points. There's no spell slots per day. There's just spell points or mana points, whatever you want to call them. And your spells, you get to choose X amount of spells, and then you can take talents that'll give you more spells. You can take specializations that will give you different schools of spells and stuff. And, there's probably about 6 to 8 spells in each school, and they all cost different, bits of mana, and you can upgrade these spells. And you can do a lot of different things with them, and I really like that. I like that. I like the diversity on the the earth. There's earth spells, there's fire spells, there's just like there is in the other D20s, but there's a lot more here in Dragon Age. I mean, it even goes to you can take a specialization, and you can become a blood mage. instead of just being a regular mage, you can be a blood mage. And then when you become a blood mage, you get a whole new line of blood mage spells. And then there's a talent that you can take that will allow you to have a more powerful stunt table too. So you can take, I believe it's called magical stunt expertise or something like that. And you can, so you could take that talent, and then when you take that talent or specialization, it opens up an entire new stunt pool. So you can use the basic stunts for magic, and then you get these super powerful stunts as well. And yeah, it's amazing. And some of these stunts on the special stunt table are really good. I like the magical mishaps. I already mentioned that. So if you get a 1 on the dragon die and you fail the roll, you have this like big time magical backlash. So you got to go, 2d6 or 3d6 and figure out what happens there. Do you blow everybody up or whatever? Because, you have to do magic rolls to see if your spell is successful. It's not like D20 games where it's just, all right, I cast my magic missile into the darkness. Voila, there it is. It's great. Some spells don't need, no, I think all spells need all spells have a target number. So yeah, it's cool. You can fail casting spells, which is, I think, even though you're playing a fantasy game, from a realistic point of view, I think it's definitely possible to, have some type of mental lapse for a split second, mumble something out wrong, sort of like what happened with good old Bruce Campbell on Army of Darkness, where he's trying to pull the book off the table and he goes, Vlatu Vrata necktie, nectar, something like that. So that can happen. I like that. And magic is just cool. Like I said, there's all kinds of weird fields of magic, and you can dip your toes into multiple. It's not like one big spell list at level 1, level 2. There's no such thing as that in Dragon Age. You have to take your school, and then you can buy your spells within that school of magic. So, yeah, good stuff. And then there's damages, and then there's some spells will give the target a chance to resist, I believe, with either cunning or willpower or something like that. So there's a chance they can kind of negate some of the damage as well. And I believe some of the spells can be upgraded also. So there's a lot going on with magic, and in fact, I don't play wizards, I don't play mages, I don't play illusionists. I've never been a clothy fan. I call them clothies because they don't have any armor on. But in Dragon Age, like I said, I actually like the mechanic system, and I actually made a mage and played in a couple of Dragon Age one-shots with my friend that was running some Dragon Age. And I had heavy armor on, so my spells cost me a lot of mana to cast. Because, like I said earlier, you can have heavy armor on and cast spells in Dragon Age. You just got to pay that extra strain depending on how heavy your armor is. So, yeah. But there's also talents that you can buy and specializations that'll beef up the amount of spell points or mana points that you have. So wearing that armor will kind of balance itself out if you invest into it, which is pretty cool. And then I liked how all of the weapons were based off of a stat or an ability score. So your axes, swords, and all that stuff were based off of strength. So that would be your strength bonus to hit on some of them. Like bows and stuff would be accuracy. I like the minimum strength on everything. And I also loved that you could, no joke, in Dragon Age, you can buy and make grenades, and you can throw grenades. There are grenades in Dragon Age, and I love that also. And you can make grenades, but if you failed making a grenade, there was a grenade mishap table where you could blow your arm off and stuff like that. So I love that. I love the crafting in Dragon Age, where you'd have magical items. They would have different rune slots. So if if you had a sword that had 2 rune slots, there are different types of runes that you can put in there. You just can't put the same rune in twice. Armor's the same way. I loved that. There were all kinds of rules for creating traps. And, what I liked about Dragon Age this is what I really liked, was the DM's guide, the DM's book. I mean, the player's guide was awesome for the players, and the players loved that. But the Game Master's guide was probably still is one of the best Game Master guides that I've ever read. And a lot of Game Master guides for books, D20 games and stuff, it's just so boring. I start to skip pages. And then I start looking for sections that would interest me in reading. But with Dragon Age, the Game Master book was awesome because it actually told you, here's how to roleplay NPCs. And here's some tips and some tricks. Here's every type of possible player that could be in your game. And here's how to deal with these types of players. Here's how to get your players subliminally, say that real quick 5 times. I love to butcher the English language, by the way. Hello, all you new users out there. On getting them really into role-playing without getting them into role-play, and how to work them up. And it was the best. It was the best Game Master book that I ever read. It talked about all kinds of hazards and traps. Sure, a lot of other D20 games and other games out there just give you, okay, this trap at a novice level is going to be 1d6 or 2d6 or 3d6. But with Dragon Age, it's just don't do a simple blade swinging trap or an Indiana Jones boulder. Add a lot of other variables in there, like, hey, you're saving a family from a burning house. So you can create an entire encounter out of a hazard roll. And it was awesome how the Game Master Guide explained how to do all of this and how to run a game. And, it was so good. And I recommend a new DM to read the Game Master's book, because it just had so much great information in there. But that's what I loved about a Dragon Age. Like I said, I think the stunt system, I think that really kind of sold me. I think that was like the final wow factor to where I wanted to always play this game. So Dragon Age RPG, yeah, 3 box sets. Box set 1 to 5, 6 to 10, and then 11 to 20. I think all the box sets are sold out, but you can still pick up the all-in-one book that they put out after box set 3. It's a beautiful book. 440 pages, the entire game, all 3 box sets, and more, because they also put more information in this, seeing that this was put out after box set 3. Game 1 to 20, I really, really enjoy playing Dragon Age. And, I'm using this mechanic system in my world that I'm creating, the world of Rakan. So, yeah, check it out. I really recommend it. I mean, I think you can buy the PDF for $5 at Green Ronin. I think they sell the PDF for like $5. I mean, $5 is a great investment to see if it's a game that you're going to like or not. So let's see what you guys are saying in chat again. Yes, I am doing the age system for a lot of the games that I'm going to be running now. So, and now that I have a working rule set for Fantasy Grounds, it's going to make running games that much easier. So, I mean, it's awesome. So a lot of you guys introduced your family and stuff to. You did Twisted Mike. Nice. Army of Darkness. One of my favorite movies of all time. Evil Dead game. It would be possible. It would be possible, Bannock. Yeah, I think it's good that Magic fumbles as well. Nasman, I like that also. Woda, hey Woda, welcome. Good to see you. Yeah, Strain with armor. Yeah, that's good because it gives you more ways to customize your character. Isn't that what it's all about? I mean, yeah, I hate that you're just restricted. Oh, if you're wearing heavy armor, you're just too distracted and you can't cast. Well, okay, I guess. We'll take your word for it. So all right, so let's see. Juice Overdrive, you're a big fan of The Expanse. Yeah, the Expanse is sci-fi. So yeah, I haven't checked it out, but it looked. In fact, I could be wrong. I don't know if it's Shadowrun-ish or what, but it looks sci-fi to me. So and I like sci-fi. So because I mean I got Starfinder. So let's see. Zarinth, welcome. You want to confirm? Does that PDF have the FM guide in it? The DM guide in it? Yeah. The DM's guide is in the game. Yeah, it's towards the middle of the book, but it tells you everything. It has all your DM tools, all of your hazard, stuff, all how to, incorporate skill checks into your game. And I mean, not just say, oh, roll a, but it actually gives you, reasons, and it gives you, reasons why you're using a skill check, and what outcomes could be, and it's really nice. Yeah, there's a GM kit for Dragon Age and Fantasy Age. There's a multi adventure book out called Blood of Ferelden for Dragon Age. There's not a lot of content out for Dragon Age, simply because of the whole BioWare thing. I think that's what's held Dragon Age back, which is sad. So The Expanse is on Amazon Prime. Oh, okay, so that Expanse is based off of that show, The Expanse, huh? Oh, that's cool. That's cool. So do you guys have any other questions about Dragon Age or anything like that? I'll kind of sum it up now if you guys are going to be asking any last questions, but I really enjoy Dragon Age, and I'm going to be running another Dragon Age game. So once Fantasy Grounds Unity officially releases, then that's when I'm going to start scheduling my game again. My game will happen every week. Well, not every single week. It'll probably happen 4 or 5 weeks in a row. Then we'll take a week off. Then we'll play 3 weeks in a row, take another week off. But yeah, we're going to be playing 3D6 stuff quite a bit. We're going to be playing some Pathfinder 2, some Starfinder as well. That's what we'll have going on for 2020 and 2021. And we'll also be probably playing some old school Talislanta also. So you're saying that The Expanse is like Game of Thrones in space. Well, that's cool, because I'm a huge Game of Thrones fan. Yeah, licensed properties are definitely nightmarish, and I think that's what held Dragon Age back. It's unfortunate, because it probably took 5 years for Box Set 3 to come out. I mean, I guess from what I was reading on the forums, because I was always reading about it every month or two, that the game was done. They were just waiting for approval, and it just took forever, which is sad. It's a good thing that Green Ronin wasn't just had all their eggs in one basket waiting for them to approve this, because it would have killed their company if they just solely depended on Dragon Age. Man, BioWare would have killed them. So thankfully, Green Ronin does a lot of other stuff. Will I ever be streaming my DM skills? Of course I will. Like I said, as soon as Fantasy Grounds Unity comes out, I plan on running a 2-hour game every week. So, yep. Yeah, exactly. What it says. You can run anything with Age, with the Age system, 3D6 Age system. You can run anything. You can run. I mean, they've got Modern Age out, all modern stuff. We're going to be using Modern Age for my zombie apocalypse. I mean, there's The Expanse, which is obviously sci-fi. There's Fantasy Age. They're doing stuff with Fantasy Age, so. And then there's also a Fantasy Age campaign companion book that actually goes into all of the other different genres and stuff too, and what you can do with steampunk or dark horror or all the other games, like Shadowrun and stuff like that. All right, everybody. So I'm glad you guys hung out for tonight. I'm glad you guys were with me. Thanks for great amount of people in here. Thank you so much, everybody, and appreciate everybody with your subscriptions, your bits and your cheers and all that other stuff. So yeah, Juice, you mentioned that. Yeah, that was years ago, and that was another thing that I really enjoyed was Chris Pramas running that game. It was awesome. But so yeah, I appreciate everybody hanging out. You'll be able to, if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll be able to make a comment down in the comment section as well, and I'll answer you there. So thank you guys so much. Don't forget to join my Discord server. We're gonna, in February of 2020, we are gonna have a Pure RPG network starting on Twitch. I think it'll be the only Pure RPG network. We're going to have an umbrella of channels on our network, probably anywhere between 3 and 6 to start. I'm looking forward to that. We're going to have a lot of content going on there. I'll have more to talk about that later on. We've still got to get some details hashed out with that, but we're hoping to get it going in February. So, all right, everybody, thank you so much again for hanging out, and can't wait to do the next Let's Talk RPGs. I don't know what we're going to talk about because there's so many games that I want to talk about, so we'll talk about something else next time. So, thank you, everybody. Thumbs up the video, all that good stuff, and I'll see you next time. And until then, happy gaming, stay safe, and keep using the awesome Fantasy Grounds virtual tabletop program. Bye, everybody.